There have been so many developments at the end of this 2024 calendar year in the Sean Diddy, Jay-Z, Tony Buzbee, Quinn Emanuel legal saga. This has been one of the most publicly discussed cases in the fourth quarter of 2024. So felt it appropriate to end this year with giving you guys a special live stream on the legal drama in this case, in these cases, I should say, and also kind of detail the amended filing that Tony Buzbee has filed on behalf of the anonymous plaintiff that was filed against Sean Carter, Jay-Z, and Sean Diddy Combs. Also walking through the Quinn Emanuel drama, their actual legal battles with the Buzbee law firm, who has filed its own set of litigation against one another, and also the defendant Jay-Z, his filing where he has asked the court to preclude and prohibit the anonymous victim from being able to proceed anonymously. He feels that this really hinders his ability to be able to defend against these allegations. So I just want to remind everyone, there's two separate tracks of things that are going on here. Sean Diddy Combs, as we know, he has been charged in a federal criminal prosecution. He's being held and detained in Brooklyn Metropolitan Detention Center, and he has been denied bail by several judges. He has been denied pretrial release. Initially, he did file an appeal to try to get reversal from the appellate court to be able to be released from prison pending his May 5th, 2025 jury trial that's scheduled to take place in New York. However, he has abandoned officially and withdrawn his appeal. So it seems like, his lawyers or he have decided that there are bigger fish to fry here, and they're just going to focus on preparing for trial at this point and not continuing to fight what appears to be a losing battle of trying to get pretrial release. And Diddy's attorneys had, filed a very comprehensive bail package that they were proposing to the court to try to persuade the court to release Diddy pending his trial. And the several judges have denied him that bail. So I have on this channel gone through in different live streams detailing what that bail package was. It was $50 million bail package. And then also Diddy has the slew of civil lawsuits that have just come out of the woodworks with many alleged victims claiming that he committed some very disturbing acts, allegations. Tony Buzbee is a Texas personal injury attorney. His firm, the Buzbee Law Firm, represents a number of those plaintiffs, including the anonymous Jane Doe, who has become so infamous now because she has filed initially a complaint against just Sean Diddy Combs, and then recently she has now named Jay-Z as well and pulled Jay-Z into this lawsuit. Initially, back in October it was, Tony Buzbee had reached out to Jay-Z privately, and he had asked for a private meeting to try to resolve things. He said that his anonymous client doesn't want to have to name him publicly. And then Jay-Z, instead of succumbing to what Jay-Z perceived to be extortion, he actually filed a John Doe lawsuit in Los Angeles County, California, against Tony Buzbee. And he says, he filed a claim against Tony Buzbee, saying that Tony Buzbee is extorting him, stating that Tony Buzbee is intentionally inflicting emotional distress upon him. And Jay-Z has been pretty public on X and on his social media and on the social media of Roc Nation, Jay-Z's company, basically saying, Tony Buzbee, you misjudged me. I am not like other celebrities. I am not going to succumb to blackmail, to extortion, and I'm going to fight you. I'm going to defend myself. So on this channel, we've also talked about how Jay-Z's attorneys have been pretty aggressive in their defense of Jay-Z, which is their job, right? In all fairness, they have written letters to the court noting the glaring inconsistencies in some of the things that the anonymous accuser has written in her complaint about Jay-Z and about the night of the alleged assault versus things that have come to light through an NBC news report. So there's some inconsistencies in the plaintiff's story that Jay-Z's attorneys have written to the court about. Jay-Z has also filed this memorandum of law where he states to the court that he wants to try to force the anonymous accuser to name herself and identify herself. His attorneys feel that it's incorrect under the law that she be allowed to proceed with these type of allegations in an anonymous fashion. So I want to take us back because I've covered this story so much on this channel. But one thing that I want to go over with you in detail and give you the inside scoop on is the amended complaint that Tony Buzbee filed against Jay-Z. And this is what really set things off when Tony Buzbee named Jay-Z publicly in this lawsuit by the anonymous accuser who Buzbee represents. So I want to take you through that right now and kind of talk to you about the different allegations in this complaint. So essentially, it states the plaintiff, Jane Doe, is represented by Buzbee Law Firm. The defendant, Sean Combs, also known as Diddy, along with his longtime friend and collaborator, Sean Carter, also known as Jay-Z, they allege that they conducted some very heinous actions upon a 13-year-old girl at an after party following the 2000 Video Music Awards. These are the allegations. We don't have a decision by a jury or a judge as to whether these are true, but this is the allegations in her complaint. So as you can see here, she has stated that this occurred in 2000, which is 24 years ago, friends. And one of the things that the attorneys for Jay-Z have pointed out is they say she doesn't have a single witness that can independently corroborate her story. So essentially, this anonymous alleged victim goes on to state that another celebrity stood by and watched as Combs and Carter took turns assaulting the minor. She claims that many others were present at the after party but did nothing to stop the assault. Combs has been allowed for years to conduct himself in this manner without any consequences. He believes he does not. He believes that he's above the law, and this plaintiff's complaint is alleging, well, he's not above the law, and I'm going to speak up and take action against him. His close friend Sean Carter has been with Combs during many such instances described herein. Both perpetrators must face justice, according to this complaint. So according to this complaint, the alleged victim states that for decades, defendant Combs abused and committed other heinous acts against women, minors, and others for his own gratification, to assert dominance and conceal his abhorrent conduct. And then she goes into a number of allegations and details in respect to that. She talks about his business enterprises and how they're central to these alleged acts of assault. So as we move through this complaint, friends, please be aware that on this channel, we are neutral here. We're going to wait for the jury or the judge to make determinations. We just hear a report on what each side is stating. So then the complaint goes on to state that members and associates of the Combs business engaged in, among other activities, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for the purposes of prostitution, coercion, and entitlement to engage in prostitution, narcotics offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. So some very damaging allegations here that this alleged victim is making. She talks in detail about Combs and for years how allegedly his business engaged in a persistent, pervasive pattern of abuse towards women, men, and minors. So she speaks in detail and details what she believes to be the acts that were committed by Combs's businesses. And then she goes on to state that in 1996, Combs was found guilty of criminal mischief for threatening a photographer for the New York Post with a gun. So she's detailing what she is alleging are some prior bad acts of Combs. And she moves on to state that in the past year, numerous civil complaints have been filed by plaintiffs who allege that they have been sexually abused by Combs between 1991 and 2009. In November of 2023, 3 lawsuits were filed against Combs under the New York Adult Survivors Act. Cassie Ventura, an artist that was signed to Bad Boy, sued Combs in New York for rape and physical abuse. She alleged that Combs facilitated these acts by and through supplying her with copious amounts of drugs and urging her to take them beginning in 2006. And we did talk about that lawsuit that Cassandra Ventura, who is has been identified as a former intimate partner of Sean Combs. She actually did file the lawsuit in 2023, and Combs settled that lawsuit within 1 day. He did not want to fight that out in the public, and he did resolve things with her. The settlement agreement between Cassie Ventura and Sean Diddy Combs from 2023 is sealed. It is confidential. So we do not know the details of that. We don't know how much, if anything, he paid her. But in other words, that was resolved without having to litigate through the court system. And then this anonymous accuser goes on to state that in February 2024, Rodney Lil Rod Jones, one of Combs' former producers, sued Combs for allegedly forcing him to engage in unwanted sex acts and sex trafficking, among other allegations. And then in May 2024, former model Crystal McKenney and April Lampros sued Combs. And so she then details this history that Combs has of these individuals suing him, individuals he's previously worked with or were representing. And then in July 2024, former adult film star Adria English, who is employed by Combs as an entertainer at his infamous white parties that brought together the biggest names in the music and entertainment industries, sued Combs for sex trafficking, alleging that he required her to consume drinks laced with ecstasy and secretly recorded the sexual acts. In September 2024, singer and songwriter Dawn Angelique Richard also sued Combs. And I remember Dawn. She was on Making the Band. She was part of the group with Aubrey O'Day. She was on Making the Band. She has filed a lawsuit against Diddy. She was in a girl group called Danity Kane. So she sued Combs for sexual assault, false imprisonment, and for subjecting her to hostile working conditions due to her gender, including allegedly making degrading comments and threats. So Dawn Richards has alleged that Combs regularly supplied others, including minors, with copious amounts of drugs and alcohol and subjected them to sexual acts while they were sedated and or unconscious due to the drugs and alcohol. In September 2024, a federal grand jury in Manhattan indicted Combs and charged him with sex trafficking, racketeering, and the creation of a criminal enterprise in which he abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and concealed his conduct. The indictment explains that his abuse of women and minors was enabled and conspired with by the employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled. So essentially, we have been following that criminal prosecution on this channel. Diddy is scheduled to go before a jury. His trial will start May 5th, 2024, and we're going to be covering this with live streams up until that point. And we will be covering the trial as well. So this anonymous alleged victim goes on to state that Combs has a long history of violence against women, unequivocally establishing that his actions are motivated by gender. That's her allegation. Her allegations herein substantially mirror Combs' prior conduct as established through criminal indictments and other lawsuits. Which is a tricky issue because a criminal indictment, even though it's indicia certainly of concern, he is innocent until proven guilty under the law. So he has not been convicted yet at the federal criminal level. So we can't, I think they're kind of overreaching in this complaint a little bit, because you can't draw an inference of guilt when there has not been a guilty verdict yet. Next, so this complaint by this anonymous alleged victim goes on to state that defendant Carter, which is Jay-Z, is like Combs, a wildly successful rapper and businessman. Carter and Combs have a long history together. Carter met and began collaborating musically with Combs in the 1990s. Combs and Carter rose together to the very top of the hip-hop industry in terms of fame and influence by the end of that decade. Combs and Carter are not simply occasional collaborators in the music industry, according to this complaint. The two men developed a close friendship that has been well documented from the late 1990s to the present. Together, they attended countless music industry events for each other's business ventures, parties, and after parties. And indeed, the two are apparently so close that Combs stated in 2023 that Carter is the only person other than Combs' mother who is allowed to call him by his legal first name of Sean. And that's really interesting, actually. And it's ironic that both these gentlemen's name is Sean. We've got Sean Diddy Combs and Sean Carter, also known as Jay-Z. So next, this anonymous alleged victim goes on to state that in 2000, near the height of their fame, power, and influence, Combs and Carter attended the 2000 Music Video Awards in New York City. Afterwards, Combs hosted an after party for many of the most famous celebrities in the music and entertainment industries, including Carter, which is where the events alleged in this complaint occurred. And remember, this I covered also on my channel through a live stream, the fact that Jay-Z's attorneys have pointed out that this complaint contains a lot of inconsistencies with what the NBC News article has reported. So we're going to see in this complaint that she's alleging that this after party occurred at a residence that had a U-shaped driveway, whereas the NBC there are pictures that have surfaced of the whereabouts of Sean Diddy Combs and Jay-Z on the night that she alleges this happened, and there's some inconsistencies. There's some hurdles that she's going to have to overcome in that regard. So we're going to talk about the parties here as stated in the complaint. Jane Doe is the anonymous alleged victim. She's a female who resides in Alabama. Defendant Sean Diddy Combs, he owns Bad Boy Productions Holding Inc. Defendant Diddy's Home Recordings Inc. Diddy's house is a domestic business corporation incorporated in New York. So she's talking about his businesses, which she alleges are intricate and intricately involved with the bad acts in this case. Then we talk about as part of the renowned Bad Boy record label and brand, Combs has established several corporate entities under the Bad Boy name, and she goes through and lists and discusses his business entities. And this is really interesting from a business perspective to see how he has organized these holdings: Bad Boy Entertainment Holdings Inc., Bad Boy Productions Holdings Inc., Bad Boy Books Holdings Inc. And then she goes on to continue to name various business entities for Bad Boy Entertainment. And then this complaint goes on to allege that defendant Sean Carter is a male who on information and belief maintains residences in both New York and Los Angeles. Defendant Carter is more commonly known as his industry name of Jay-Z. Carter was identified in plaintiff's original complaint as Celebrity A. Prior to the filing of this amended complaint, Carter received a letter from plaintiff's counsel requesting a mediation to resolve this matter. Upon information and belief, Jay-Z responded to said letter by not only filing an utterly frivolous lawsuit, but by also orchestrating a conspiracy of harassment, bullying, and intimidation against plaintiffs' lawyers, their families, employees, and former associates in an attempt to silence plaintiff from naming Jay-Z herein. And this has also been covered by our channel. There's this whole war right now going on between Quinn Emanuel, which is the law firm that represents Jay-Z, and Tony Buzbee's law firm, who represents this anonymous alleged victim. And there are claims by the Buzbee law firm stating that they believe that Jay-Z's attorneys have contacted former clients of the Buzbee law firm to try to entice them and encourage those former clients to sue Tony Buzbee's law firm. Tony Buzbee and his firm are alleging that this is an intimidation tactic that Jay-Z's attorneys are using against them to try to make it more difficult for him to continue to represent these plaintiffs. So we did cover that on our channel as well. And in fact, there have been some transcripts that have been filed of audio phone recordings where different former clients, in particular a gentleman named Mr. Garcia, he tape recorded a phone conversation where Jessica Santiago, an investigator, an alleged private investigator who they believe to have a relationship with Rock Nation, Jay-Z's company, had contacted one of Tony Buzbee's former clients and was enticing him to try to sue, even though Mr. Garcia had said he was very pleased with the work that the Buzbee law firm had done on his behalf. So this complaint goes on to state jurisdictional elements and the factual allegations of this alleged victim. She states that on or around September 7th, 2000, plaintiff, who was then 13 years old, had a friend drive and drop her off near Radio City Music Hall in New York City so she could try to attend the Video Music Awards. Attending the VMAs was on plaintiff's bucket list, and she believed that she could gain entry. And again, there's also some claims by Quinn Emanuel, Jay-Z's attorneys, that Tony Buzbee did not properly vet this complaint because a number of the facts that she is alleging have been revealed that there are some inconsistencies. So, for example, this alleged victim claims that she spoke with Benji Madden at the VMA party where she was allegedly assaulted by Jay-Z. But Benji Madden was on tour with Good Charlotte. He was not at any after party for the VMAs in the United States. So also the alleged victim's father does not recall coming to pick her up at a gas station after the alleged assault by Jay-Z, whereas the victim states in her complaint right here that her father had driven 5 hours to come pick her up at a gas station after her alleged assault. But then when her father spoke with NBC News, her father says, "No, I don't recall coming to pick up my daughter. I think I would have remembered if I had to drive 5 hours to come pick her up at a gas station after she was assaulted." And so that's a lot of people are criticizing this anonymous accuser and saying that her stories are just not matching up what she's saying in the complaint here and what she said to NBC News. So this complaint then goes on to state that plaintiff arrived at the venue and saw large crowds gathering as artists and entertainers began arriving. Plaintiff was very excited as the event began. Much of the crowd moved inside, but plaintiff, without a ticket, remained outside with others and watched the VMAs on a Jumbotron. So that was another inconsistency because she is claiming that there was a Jumbotron, like a large TV where she was watching the VMAs. And there is some proof that has surfaced that there was actually not a Jumbotron in that location where she's alleging to have been outside of the Radio City Music Hall at that particular VMA event. So that's another inconsistency in her story that Jay-Z's attorneys have pointed out. So let's continue through her complaint, friends. She then says that determined to get into the VMAs or an after party, she approached several limousine drivers parked nearby and attempted to talk her way into either. One of the limousine drivers that she spoke to claimed to work for defendant Combs, Sean Diddy Combs. The driver told her that Combs liked younger girls and said she, quote, fit what Diddy was looking for. And while not allowing her into the awards, the driver invited her to an after party. The driver stated that he had to drive Combs and others to the after party first, but instructed plaintiff to return to his location after the event and that he would pick her up and take her to the after party. Later that evening, plaintiff excitedly returned to the same location and waited for what seemed to her a long time. The driver eventually returned and drove her to what she described as the after party. After about 20 minutes, plaintiff arrived at what she believed to be a large white residence with a gated U-shaped driveway. So that's another inconsistency that Jay-Z's attorneys have pointed out. They said that this alleged victim of Jay-Z claims that she attended an after party at a residence with a U-shaped driveway. However, pictures have surfaced of the whereabouts of Jay-Z, and he was actually out somewhere else. He was out at a nightclub. So this alleged victim is being heavily criticized by the public, by Jay-Z's attorneys, for having these inconsistencies emerge. And quite frankly, it's also come out, Tony Buzbee had written in a letter to the court that the alleged victim has autism. So he said, listen, you can't fault this woman for having some memory lapses about things that happened 24 years ago. This alleged assault by Jay-Z happened back in 2000, which is 24 years ago. And Tony Buzbee, who represents this woman, is saying, you need to cut her some slack because this happened 24 years ago and she has autism, right? That can impact, her memory and thinking abilities is what he's alleging. I'm not taking any position on that particular medical condition as it relates to this. But Tony Buzbee is also citing some persuasive case law in his letters where he says also this alleged victim was only 13 years old when she was allegedly assaulted by Jay-Z. So therefore, as a 13-year-old, the law recognizes some leniency when there are certain, maybe some inaccuracies. The law is not holding a minor to a very, to the precision that they may hold an adult to, right? She was a very young person at the time of this alleged assault. So therefore, Tony Buzbee has made some very persuasive arguments in response to Jay-Z's attorney's criticisms of this victim for having having inconsistencies in her story. So moving along on this complaint, once inside, two men asked plaintiff to sign a document, which plaintiff did not read, but which she now believes to have been a non-disclosure agreement. Well, she was only 13, so she really can't sign a non-disclosure agreement anyway, legally. But she was told that she could not discuss what happened at the party. She gave the men her name and signed the form, but did not receive a copy of the form. So on the next page, we have some photos here on the next page of this alleged victim's complaint. Once inside the building, plaintiff recognized many celebrities as she entered what appeared to be a large living room or foyer containing a large crowd. Plaintiff attempted to mingle in the crowd and talk to several of the celebrities that she recognized and whom she had wanted to see at the VMAs. Wait staff circulated through the room carrying trays of drinks, and loud music played throughout the venue. Plaintiff observed widespread drug use, including marijuana and cocaine. After attempting to talk to numerous celebrities, plaintiff accepted a drink from one of the waitresses circulating the crowd. The drink was a reddish yellow mixture that tasted like orange juice, cranberry juice, and something bitter. After drinking just a portion of that drink, plaintiff began to feel woozy and lightheaded, making her need to lie down. a photograph of an actual exemplary container used by Combs and or his agents' employees to insert GHB into alcoholic drinks is seen below. Well, how would they have gotten that? Are they alleging that this is my question. Are they alleging that these photos were taken at that party on that night, or are they just or are these photos that have surfaced from other alleged victims of Combs that Tony Buzbee represents? I think it's more likely that it's the latter. Next, the complaint goes on to state that looking for a place to rest, the plaintiff walked down what appeared to be a hallway containing several rooms off of it. She entered what appeared to be an empty bedroom so she could lie down for a moment. She did not lock the door. So then her complaint goes on to state that this room contained only a large bed with no furniture of any other kind, television or other furnishings. Soon after, Combs entered the room along with defendant Carter and a female celebrity, Celebrity B. Oh gosh, so Tony Buzbee is now saying that there was also this other celebrity, Celebrity B. I wonder who this could be. So next, plaintiff immediately recognized all three celebrities. Combs, according to the plaintiff, Combs aggressively approached her with a crazed look in his eyes, grabbed her and said, "You are ready to party." Combs then threw plaintiff toward a wall, etc., etc. And we don't need to go through the graphics of the allegations, but to suffice it to say, the plaintiff is alleging that she was assaulted by Diddy and Jay-Z. And then as we get into her first cause of action, she's saying that a violation of New York City Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act, VGMVPA, which is the abbreviation, the requirement that the crime of violence be committed because of gender or on the basis of gender and due at least part to an animus based on the victim's gender is satisfied because defendants Combs and Carter forced minor plaintiff to engage in a sexual interaction without consent. So these are her allegations, friends. That's her first cause of action. Her second cause of action in this her requests for relief in this complaint are as follows. She wants compensatory damages for all physical injuries, emotional distress, psychological harm, anxiety, humiliation, physical and emotional pain and suffering, family and social disruption, and other harm in an amount to be determined at trial, punitive damages in an amount to be determined at trial, and awarding attorneys' fees and costs pursuant to any applicable statute of law. And then on the final page, she is asking for attorney's fees and prejudgment interest and post-judgment interest, all the things that plaintiffs typically ask when they're bringing these types of claims. Attaching any and all of defendants' real property and other assets located in the state of New York pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 64 and any such other relief that the court deems to be appropriate. So that is what she filed. And then in response, Jay-Z has filed a memorandum of law where he is stating it's not fair for her to be able to proceed anonymously without naming and identifying herself. So he has filed this memorandum of law, which is very extensive. And I will say, Quinn Emanuel, that represents Jay-Z, they are very impressive in terms of the quality of legal writing, in terms of the quality of the briefing. And I'm going to go through his complaint. I'm sorry, not his complaint. His briefing here, where he cites his attorney cites all of these cases and rules. And in the introductory paragraph, they basically explain that for months, an extortionate campaign has been targeting Jay-Z under cover of darkness. That campaign was cynical and calculated to force payment of an exorbitant sum of money. Jay-Z would have to pay X millions of dollars, irrespective of the truth, or else. When Jay-Z refused to pay and instead took measures to establish his innocence, this unnamed plaintiff and her self-promoting counsel, whose name has been splashed across headlines and press conferences under auspices of representing her, went to extraordinary lengths to shut down fair defense. But those efforts too failed. Now, at last, The false, unfounded allegations that underlie this campaign of extortion are having judicial light shined on them, except that this plaintiff is bringing them as a doe who would continue to hide under cover of darkness. Because that tactic is inconsistent with a genuine effort to determine the truth or falsity of these allegations, as opposed to an effort to procure a quick, extortionate settlement, defendant is respectfully seeking either dismissal of the allegations or disclosure of the plaintiff's identity. Fair is fair. It is not consistent with justice, fairness, or the rules governing federal proceedings for the plaintiff and her counsel to smear defendant's good name in ways that are calculated to feed media coverage and thus inflict maximum public relations damage, while the core fact of plaintiff's identity, revelation of which stands to discredit her entire case, remains wholly hidden from view. Whereas doe status is reserved for truly extraordinary cases and predicated upon extraordinary justification, here a multitude of powerful considerations cut precisely the opposite direction, as other judges of this court have ruled in cases involving the same circumstances. Defendant Sean Carter, also known as Jay-Z, has built an impeccable reputation. He has never been accused of, let alone engaged in, any sexual misconduct until today, when defendant in an amended complaint filed by Anthony Buzbee has leveled baseless allegations and accused Mr. Carter of deplorable acts, despicable acts, while hiding behind the pseudonym Jane Doe. These claims are not about justice for victims. So essentially, they're saying this is unfair to Jay-Z because if she identified herself and revealed who she is, then Jay-Z could easily refute. He could go contact witnesses. He could do a private investigation of her. He could find out, to do things to factually verify the truth or the falsity of the allegations. He could have subpoena family members. He could call them as witnesses. Particularly, like, for example, her father, who says that he doesn't remember coming to pick her up after the assault, the alleged assault, when she's claiming that her father did pick her up. So Jay-Z, in a way, I absolutely do agree with Jay-Z's attorneys in a sense that it is putting Jay-Z in a somewhat of an unfair position for her to be able to proceed in federal court as an unidentified Jane Doe, because it does handcuff him in a number of respects from being able to properly defend himself against her allegations. How do you defend allegations against a ghost? How do you defend allegations when you don't know who she is? And you can't therefore subpoena witnesses or subpoena her family members or have someone privately investigate her and her credibility. It really does handcuff Jay-Z. So I understand why he filed this. And then his attorneys go on to state that the claims are not about justice for victims, nor are they about giving victims of sexual violence a voice. Instead, they are merely the next chapter in Anthony Buzbee's sprawling extortion saga, a saga whose aim is base and measured in dollars. Buzbee has devoted himself to the business of extracting large settlements from celebrities, high net worth individuals, and businesses with any public ties to Sean Combs, also known as Puff Daddy. That's P. Diddy. Following his indictment for sex crimes in September 2024. References to justice or, quote, sunlight serve only as window dressing. Make no mistake, this case is about retaliating against the rare target who would not pay. So this is really interesting. Jay-Z is saying, Tony Buzbee contacted me privately. He asked me to meet with him in a private mediation to try to, quote, resolve these claims that his anonymous client has against Jay-Z. And Jay-Z said, no, I'm not going to meet with you. I'm not going to just give you hush money because I'm innocent. Jay-Z went on X. He went on his social media and he publicly called out Tony Buzbee and said, you're a disgrace. I come from the projects of Brooklyn. I protect children. I protect people. I have an impeccable reputation. I have a beautiful family with my wife, Beyonce. We have kids. I built my reputation as a impeccable businessman, and you're harming and damaging my reputation. He called Tony Buzbee an ambulance chaser. I mean, Jay-Z really went public on Rock Nation social media, just slamming Tony Buzbee and saying, I'm the rare target who won't pay you. I'm not going to give you a quick settlement. I'm going to defend myself. And he says, and that's why Tony Buzbee is retaliating against me. That's why Tony Buzbee is retaliating against me, is what Jay-Z says. So then, in this complaint, Jay-Z's attorneys go on to say that Tony Buzbee has sought to expose, Mr. Carter sought to expose Tony Buzbee's latest extortion scheme by filing a California lawsuit on November 18, 2024, after receiving a demand letter from Anthony Buzbee. Here's Exhibit J, the extortion complaint. At the time, Tony Buzbee knew who Mr. Carter was, even as Mr. Carter remained in the dark, as he does today, about the identity of Mr. Buzbee's client. The plaintiff and Anthony Buzbee now bring these claims against Mr. Carter in a clear act of retaliation, as the complaint admits on its face. While Mr. Carter was being extorted, he could not speak out without revealing his identity and the heinous allegations made against him, which are patently false. That would be playing into Anthony Buzbee's game and the leverage he's wielding. The upshot would be highly sensational and equally false allegations being broadcast across social media and the press, thereby maximizing the pressure exerted against extortion targets to satisfy this monetary demands despite the truth. Because Sean Carter, Jay-Z, called upon the courts rather than paying Tony Buzbee, he has now been sued. So be it. One way or another, Mr. Carter is entitled and positioned to exonerate himself through the legal process. In this case, he will vigorously defend himself and expose the truth that the allegations in the complaint are false. So this is very true. And there's been a social media war between Tony Buzbee and Jay-Z. And Tony Buzbee has gone on his social media saying, I'm a former Marine. I'm not going to back down to a celebrity who's entitled or who has money. And Jay-Z has responded through social media and said, well, you've misjudged me, Mr. Buzbee, because I'm not like other celebrities who you've been able to extort to just pay you hush money. I'm not going to pay you. I'm going to defend myself vigorously through the court process. And Jay-Z has the money to be able to do that. He has the money to be able to sustain this litigation for as long as it may take, to exonerate himself. And Jay-Z will have the opportunity to get discovery from this anonymous alleged victim. He will have the opportunity to serve her with interrogatories where she will have to answer written questions, and he can confront her about some of the glaring inaccuracies, glaring inconsistencies between what she wrote in her complaint and what she has reported to NBC News. On the other hand, he can serve her with something called requests for admissions, where he can ask her in writing, pre-trial, to have to admit or deny certain allegations or certain statements. Jay-Z can also serve this anonymous accuser with something called requests for production of documents, where she will have to produce texts, emails, videos, audios, recordings, any type of documents or things that she intends to use as proof against him in bringing this claim against him, and even have to reveal some of her own personal text messages and communications that may weigh against some of her claims. So, for example, she's alleging that her father drove 5 hours to come pick her up at a gas station after Jay-Z allegedly assaulted her. But her father told NBC News that he has no recollection of that. So Jay-Z can ask her to produce all text messages, emails, phone calls, phone records relating to your communications with your family members or any other third parties in that evening that you allege that this assault occurred. Now, some of the tricky things that are going to come into play with this litigation is that this happened 24 years ago. This alleged assault happened in the year 2000. That's 24 years ago. So the likelihood of this victim, this alleged victim, having text messages, emails, audios, videos from 24 years ago, that's rather slim. And also, Jay-Z's attorneys have pointed out that this woman has said that she has made some very heinous allegations against Jay-Z, but Jay-Z's attorneys have pointed out that there is not one single corroborating witness that she has set forward. Not one affidavit, not one named individual that can independently corroborate her story. And again, friends, her story in this complaint has a number of glaring inconsistencies because she says that this alleged assault happened at a residence that had a U-shaped driveway, but there are photos that have surfaced from the night in question that placed Jay-Z at a nightclub, not at a residence for an after party. She says the alleged victim says that she spoke with Benji Madden at the after party where she was allegedly assaulted by Jay-Z, but Benji Madden was on tour with Good Charlotte overseas. He was out of the United States when this after party happened. So she could not possibly have spoken with Benji Madden on the night when she was allegedly assaulted by Jay-Z. So again, we've got all of these glaring inconsistencies from what this alleged victim says in her complaint here that I'm showing you versus what she has reported and what her father has reported to NBC News. Her father says, I have no recollection of coming to pick her up on the night where she was claiming that she was assaulted. I think I would remember that, her father said. But she says in her complaint that my dad came and picked me up. I called him from a gas station. So friends, let me know in the comments what you think. What are your thoughts about these glaring inconsistencies and inaccuracies? Tony Buzbee has pointed out that she has autism and that she was only 13 at the time of the assault. Tony Buzbee has also pointed out that the law recognizes that courts are more lenient with victims who are minors. So let me know in the comments what you think, friends. And if you're getting value from the stream, please subscribe and support the channel. We're going to be covering this story all the way up through its all the way up through its end. We are covering it from inception all the way up through its end. We come to you live with daily live streams every day. We've just hit 50,000 views, over 50,000 views on our young YouTube channel. We just started a couple weeks ago. So I ask for you to continue to subscribe and help us grow our channel. So next, friends, the complaint goes on to state that in the American judicial system, lawsuits are public by their nature and their design. The public is meant to know the facts involved in the identities of the parties. Indeed, federal law requires that all parties litigate using their true name. Parties are exempted from this mandate only in exceptional cases where, for instance, allowing the party to proceed anonymously will protect him or her from physical violence, deportation, imprisonment, or severe harassment. Here, plaintiff has chosen to sue Mr. Carter anonymously using the pseudonym Jane Doe, yet has not alleged any facts that would allow her to sidestep the federal mandate requiring that all parties must litigate using their true names. Indeed, her allegations exhibit none of the special circumstances necessary to allow her to litigate anonymously. To the contrary, her facially incredible allegations indicate that, unlike in many cases of alleged sexual misconduct, she has already been exposed in plain sight to countless witnesses whose truthful accounts would be helpfully and properly informed by specification of her identity. So they're basically saying, listen, Tony Buzbee represents a plethora of alleged victims of Sean Combs. So she should come forward and identify herself, because if she really, they're kind of trying to insinuate that if she really cared about what was going on or helping other alleged victims, she would want to come forward, identify herself, and be part of this movement that Tony Buzbee is filing against celebrities like Sean Diddy Combs and Jay-Z. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe to the channel for daily live streams on celebrity entertainment news. I bring you live real legal filings every day. So here we go, friends. Let's move on to the next part of this complaint, where Jay-Z's attorneys are earning their fees. They're talking about the background of this complaint. And I actually want to show you the exhibits that they've attached here, which I think is pretty interesting. So they've actually, they didn't actually include the exhibits in this particular public filing, but a number of the things that they reference in their exhibits are really interesting. For example, they actually had filed an anonymous complaint on behalf of Jay-Z in Los Angeles Superior Court in California. and it was against Tony Buzbee, where Jay-Z was the John Doe plaintiff, stating that Tony Buzbee is extorting me. He's trying to extort exorbitant funds from me to settle a lawsuit for hush money. He filed an intentional infliction of emotional distress claim against Tony Buzbee. So this story has been one of the most widely reported stories in the legal news that I've seen for quite some time. So let's read the background here as according to Jay-Z's attorneys, friends. So Jay-Z states, Jay-Z's attorneys state, in an amended complaint that was filed on December 8th, 2024, plaintiff sued Mr. Carter anonymously using the pseudonym Jane Doe. Without filing her own affidavit supporting her request for anonymity, plaintiff instead relies solely on a declaration submitted by attorney Buzbee. That declaration effectively parrots those that attorney Buzbee has filed in other cases alleging claims of sexual assault by Sean Diddy Combs, and others. And more importantly, this declaration makes no specific reference to special circumstances unique to plaintiff's case. It only makes broad and generalized assertions about attorney Buzbee's other clients. Strikingly, an overwhelming number of these clients, likely in excess of 80%, have stated to me or attorneys at my firm during their intake process that Mr. Combs made threats of violence against them or against client family members if the client disclosed to anyone the facts of the sexual assaults or other acts of Mr. Combs of which they were a victim. In at least 2 cases filed by attorney Buzbee with this declaration, other courts in this district have already denied his baseless motions to proceed anonymously for failure to meet the burden to show each plaintiff as it was entitled to the exceptional remedy of anonymity. So essentially, under the law, court proceedings are public. Only in very rare, extraordinary cases are you allowed to proceed anonymously under a Jane Doe pseudonym. Now, in this federal case that Tony Buzbee has filed on behalf of this alleged victim of Jay-Z, the federal judge did allow her to proceed in this manner. But Jay-Z's attorneys are challenging that ruling, and they're challenging it and saying, well, no, under our case law, under other decisions of this exact court, Tony Buzbee's motions have been denied. His requests have been denied to be able to proceed anonymously on behalf of other clients because he failed to state with specificity what were the specific special circumstances in each case for why this plaintiff should be allowed to proceed anonymously. So that's a very persuasive argument. That is I am an attorney, friends, and I have had to be in court arguing and briefing these issues. And that's a persuasive argument that there are other cases on behalf of other victims in similar situations filed by the same attorney, Tony Buzbee, in this same district court where the request to proceed anonymously was denied. So I think there's a likelihood here that this plaintiff is gonna have to name herself. Jay-Z's attorneys are really earning their fees. They're putting together what I consider to be very good arguments here. So when we move on here, it says, there's every indication that this lawsuit is not only truly about plaintiff, but about attorney Buzbee's larger agenda. They call it unsavory. Love that word. Despite plaintiff's request to proceed anonymously, plaintiff's counsel is doing everything to draw widespread attention to her. The same day the amended complaint was filed naming Mr. Carter, attorney Buzbee posted on Instagram and Twitter, prominently featuring himself, addressing the amended complaint and making clear this is not about his clients. So check out this post that Tony Buzbee posted on Twitter the same day that he named Jay-Z in this lawsuit. And they're basically, Jay-Z's attorneys are basically saying he's using this as a press opportunity for himself. Tony Buzbee is using these victims to try to get more fame and fortune and be able to extort large celebrities who have lots of money. So basically they say that his posts reveal that this lawsuit is not about his clients, but is about his personal spat with Mr. Carter. So if you read through, and he did go on a rampage, friends. Tony Buzbee did go on a rampage on social media. He said, I'm a former Marine. I'm not afraid of you, Jay-Z. I'm not going to back down to you. And Jay-Z, to his own credit, he got on Rock Nation's X and social media, and he started going at Tony Buzbee and attacking Tony Buzbee's character and saying, you know what, friend, sir, you've really misjudged me. I'm not going to lay down and just pay you. So listen, guys, this has been an incredible legal battle. I haven't seen anything this widely watched since Johnny Depp's trial. So friends, and also Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, their divorce and things of that nature. So the next page of the complaint says, what is more, Anthony Buzbee has made numerous social media posts and statements to the media regarding his representation of individuals with allegations against Sean Combs, including that he would target other unnamed celebrities. These statements began a couple weeks after Mr. Combs' indictment and continued after plaintiff, through attorney Buzbee, sent Mr. Combs unfounded demand letters in November of 2024, falsely accusing him of rape. These baseless claims, unsupported by evidence, are nothing more than a calculated effort to strong-arm Mr. Carter into submission. When Mr. Carter proved unwilling to pay, Tony Buzbee escalated his tactics and schemes further, threatening to conjure additional false accusations and manufacturing a parade of fictitious additional, quote, victims to emerge and further damage Mr. Carter's reputation. So basically, they again continue to express that this is extortion. And friends, I have covered this story and all of its respective pleadings, all of the major pleadings in this case. I've covered it in various live streams on my channel. So go through the live streams playlist on my channel, look through the videos, look through the shorts, and you'll see all the different filings I've brought to you, the real filings in this case. Each attorney has filed, each side, both Quinn Emanuel's filings on behalf of Jay-Z and also Tony Buzbee, the Buzbee Law Firm's filings on behalf of the anonymous accuser. I've covered all of these in depth on my channel. So please subscribe and support the channel for daily live streams on this case and other celebrity cases. We've covered the Vanderpump Rules litigation. We've covered the Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt litigation. We're covering the Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni legal feud that's heated up right now. So friends, go ahead, and as an attorney, I have unique insight to be able to analyze these and explain these filings to you. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys may have. The complaint then goes on to state that to coerce Mr. Carter into compliance, plaintiff and Anthony Buzbee imposed an arbitrary deadline in their extortionate demand letter, warning Mr. Carter that they would take a different course if he did not agree to a confidential mediation to, quote, resolve this delicate and important matter. And yes, that could be read as an extortionist letter, because even though Tony Buzbee says, well, this is standard practice in my industry. I was just trying to send a potential settlement letter to Jay-Z to try to see if he would peaceably, amicably resolve the situation without us having to go to court over it. Well, Jay-Z's attorneys are correct that it can certainly arguably be read as an extortionist claim, as an extortionist letter, because he's basically saying, you know what, if you don't give my client hush money in a confidential mediation, we're going to go ahead and name you with all these heinous allegations and essentially ruin your reputation and drag your name through the mud. And even though Tony Buzbee is, of course, not spelling it out so explicitly, Jay-Z can read between the lines. Jay-Z is no dummy. He's an incredibly intelligent businessman. He's very savvy. He knew exactly what Tony Buzbee, the implications of Tony Buzbee's letter was. So with all due respect to the Buzbee Law Firm, let's not play dumb here, folks. We understand the implications of what this letter was. And that's why Jay-Z responded by suing Tony Buzbee in Los Angeles Superior Court for extortion and intentional infliction of emotional distress. He says, listen, Jay-Z says, I'm a family man. I've got a wife, Beyonce. I've got kids. I've got my businesses. I've built an impeccable reputation. And these allegations with just flimsy proofs, you didn't even vet your claim, Tony Buzbee, Jay-Z is saying. He says, this is damaging. Every day that this lawsuit is out there, it's damaging my reputation. And that's why his attorneys have filed this filing where they're saying to the court, either dismiss these claims against Jay-Z or require this woman to identify and name herself so that we can properly investigate her. We can subpoena witnesses that know her. We can investigate her background. We can try to defend Jay-Z against these allegations, because she's proceeding anonymously. Jay-Z has no idea who she is, and that does handcuff and hinder his ability to be able to appropriately defend himself. So I do see both sides of the coin. I understand her point of view for wanting to remain anonymous, but I also strongly understand Jay-Z's position. So friends, go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you're interested in following this story, because I do daily live streams on this case. Every time there's breaking news, every time a new filing is made by any of the attorneys, I cover it live on this channel, lengthy live streams. Let me know in the chat if you have any questions. I always want to answer my questions and serve you guys. So Jay-Z's attorneys continue to go on to state that in retaliation, plaintiff and Anthony Buzbee filed the amended complaint, and they did. Okay, so on November 18th, 2024, Mr. Carter, Jay-Z, filed a complaint against Tony Buzbee and his law firm for his extortionate conduct. And then in retaliation, the plaintiff and Anthony Buzbee filed the amended complaint. They did so, however, only following a failed attempt by Attorney Buzbee to obtain a restraining order against Shawn Carter's counsel. So notably, the amended complaint acknowledges that plaintiff, through her counsel, Attorney Buzbee, is only bringing these false claims against Mr. Carter in retaliation for his failure to respond to her pre-litigation demand letter. So do you see how sensitive this is, friends? Do you see how important the wording is? So Tony Buzbee is depicting this as, oh, well, we had no choice but to file this complaint. We had no choice but to file this complaint against Mr. Carter, Jay-Z, because, he wouldn't respond to our demand letter. But Jay-Z is saying, well, hey, you know what? I wouldn't succumb to your extortion attempts, and now you're suing me in retaliation. So both, I love the fact that Jay-Z's attorneys are posturing it in that way, because it really does elicit out to the court and to the public the kind of behind the scenes as to what all happened here, that I don't think the Buzbee law firm wanted to be known. I don't think that they wanted to have it called out like this. And now Tony Buzbee, I also covered on my previous live stream, Tony Buzbee is claiming that Jay-Z's attorneys are contacting former clients of the Buzbee law firm and trying to entice those clients to sue Tony Buzbee. And for example, former client Mr. Garcia has filed a complaint. He says that he was contacted by a private investigator who he believes to be associated with Roc Nation, Jay-Z's company, where that private investigator, Jessica Santiago, was allegedly trying to get the former client of Tony Buzbee to sue Tony Buzbee. And Tony Buzbee is saying, hey, look, Jay-Z's attorneys are going on this rampage. They're contacting my former clients. They're trying to get my law firm sued so that I cannot pursue these claims on behalf of the plaintiffs against Jay-Z and against Sean Diddy Combs. Buzbee is claiming that Jay-Z's attorneys are playing dirty, fast and loose, behind the scenes, that they have this campaign where they're contacting former clients, trying to get the Buzbee law firm sued into oblivion so that the law firm will crumble, and that to try to intimidate Tony Buzbee and his law firm from continuing to pursue litigation against Sean Diddy Combs and Jay-Z. And friends, I just also want to wish you a happy new year and tell you how much it means to me that you're spending this live stream and this new year with me. Thank you so much. And please, let's celebrate the new year. Please subscribe to the channel. and then you'll be notified of the daily live streams I bring you on this case with Sean Diddy Combs, Jay-Z. I'm covering Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni. This ends with us. I'm covering the Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie litigation, covering all the Vanderpump Rules litigation. So friends, please subscribe, support the channel. We are a new channel. We come to you every day with live streams covering celebrity legal news. I'm an attorney myself, and I have a unique perspective to be able to break down all this legal news with you with real legal filings. And I bring these legal filings to you hot off the press each day. So moving on, friends, let's look back at this filing by Jay-Z's attorney. He says that, needless to say, this proceeding should not be driven by attorney Buzbee's agenda or interests. It's about finding the facts, applying the law, and fairly adjudicating what is the actual truth. Mr. Carter now is entitled to defend himself against these allegations with benefit of all of the protections and mechanisms that are available to defendants. To be sure, Anthony Buzbee's game has been to prevent Mr. Carter from defending himself while punching below the belt. Oh, dang. Oh, dang. Well, you know what? I think both sides have kind of punched below the belt when you see some of the stuff that's been flying back and forth. But today that game is at an end, and Mr. Carter's defense has begun, starting with plaintiff's unmasking. So, oh my gosh, friends, Jay-Z's attorneys are hard at work. They are earning their fees. On this channel, I've covered a lot of the different letters and filings and motions that they've filed. And they're doing a really great job. They're doing an aggressive job at defending Jay-Z's rights as the defendant, and really trying to ask the court to hold this anonymous accuser to the standard of the law, which is that she should, to proceed by naming herself and unmasking herself so that Jay-Z can defend himself against her allegations. And friends, please know that, again, earlier in my live stream, we went through the different pleadings in this case, including the actual complaint that was filed against Jay-Z by Tony Buzbee, where he was named, and Jay-Z alleges this was retaliation, and also the litigation that's been going back and forth between Quinn Emanuel, Jay-Z's attorneys, and Tony Buzbee's law firm. They have been filing litigation against each other and accusing each other of a lot of attorney misconduct. Quinn Emanuel, Jay-Z's attorneys, have alleged that Tony Buzbee has committed ethical violations and also did not comply with federal rule of civil procedure 11, which requires him to have vetted the complaint before he filed it. Jay-Z's attorneys are alleging that Tony Buzbee is trying to evade the jurisdiction of the federal court to be able to sanction him for his misconduct. So, I mean, this whole legal saga between Jay-Z and the representatives of the anonymous alleged victim has gotten really just blown up. It's absolutely blown up, and it all began with the letter, the demand letter that Tony Buzbee sent to Jay-Z, basically trying to, quote, resolve the matter privately. Jay-Z interprets that as him trying to extort him for exorbitant hush money. And so, friends, I wanted to just let you know, I've been on the stream for over an hour. I come to you live every day with live streams. I am so blessed to have rung in the new year with you, my friends. Thank you so much for your support. I love all your comments. You guys are amazing. I respond to every comment as much as possible as I can. I do my best to respond to all of them. You guys have had such insightful, amazing comments about your opinions and your views about this Jay-Z versus anonymous victim, the Sean Diddy Combs litigation, the Quinn Emanuel, Tony Buzbee drama. We've also covered the Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt litigation, the Vanderpump Rules litigation. We've also been covering the Blake Lively v. Justin Baldoni, It Ends With Us litigation. And our most widely and watched news stories have been the Sean Diddy Combs federal prosecution, Sean Diddy Combs civil suits, Jay-Z civil suit now. So, guys, I just want to thank you guys so much for subscribing, supporting the channel. We have reached in the last, just being such a young channel, being new to the air, just at the end of 2024 last month. We have now reached over 50,000 views. I just checked our stats today. We're at over 50,000 views. We have, you guys, just all of your comments. It just means so much to us. Thank you so much for subscribing. Last time we checked, we have our first like 100, I think 125, 126 subscribers. We are so blessed to be with you guys. Thank you so much for all of the insightful comments. We want to build this channel based on what you want to see. So drop comments in the comments. Let us know what stories you want to see. Let us know your feedback. And I want to just tell you, I received these really awesome comments where some of our viewers were talking about how were suggesting to me that I set up a different type of audio. And I want to just let you know, guys, I really appreciate that type of feedback, because I want to make this channel most accessible to you guys and the most pleasurable of viewing experiences for you guys. I want to build this channel with you guys as a community, and I want to serve you. So the stories that you guys are interested in seeing on a daily basis, I want to serve them to you. As an attorney, I do have access to be able to get the real legal filings almost instantaneously when they are filed. So I want to bring to you, my community, these legal filings and walk through them with you and give you kind of like that behind the scenes peek, hot off the presses of the legal filings that are filed in these celebrity news and entertainment lawsuits. So guys, let me know in the comments what stories that you're most interested in seeing. Please subscribe to the channel and help us grow. You guys have made the end of 2024 so wonderful for us. I love being with you here every day on these live streams. And please, like I said, continue to send us these comments. Like I said, I try to respond to every single comment. The comments have been so amazing. We are neutral here on this channel. We don't take sides. We love hearing comments from both sides of the aisle. Whatever party, whoever you favor, drop it in the comments. I've had some pro Diddy comments. I've had some pro alleged victim comments. We've had pro Jay-Z comments. We've had pro Tony Buzbee comments, pro Quinn Emanuel comments. We've had it all. And we respect all views. We respect, you know, your right to comment and discuss and share your opinions in a respectful way. And we love that and appreciate it. So guys, thank you so much again. Thank you for making this channel what it is. You guys are the reason this channel is great. You guys are the reason why this channel is growing. I want to thank you all so much for subscribing, for commenting, for liking our videos. And I will be back here with you tomorrow in the new year for some more continued daily live streams with giving you the inside scoop and the inside view on real legal filings that are filed in celebrity and entertainment lawsuits. Friends, thank you so much for being with me here and bringing in the new year with me. I really appreciate you guys for being here. And I hope that you guys have a great rest of your evening, although now it's morning. It is now 2025. And I am so happy and blessed to ring in the new year with you guys. Have a great 2025, friends. And I will see you soon. Bye.